morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I am telling you about one of the most exciting Pokemon cards I've seen in the last few months. It's Wailord V! And I told you we were getting a Wailord V. We had gotten a, well, let's just say, not entirely subtle hint that we were getting a Wailord V. And I, for one, am absolutely delighted. Partly it's because I love Wailord. Partly it's because my daughter has a giant Wailord that a friend brought all the way back from Japan in hand luggage. And partly it's because I think this actually has a chance to be genuinely, legitimately good. And not just because of the gigantic HP. Although, let's start there, right? It is gigantic HP. It's 280. Now, I call this the biggest HP ever, and that does need a slight clarification. When it comes to two-prize Pokemon, it's not even close. The biggest two-prize Pokemon we've seen yet is Wailord EX with 250. The largest Pokemon V we've seen so far is Zamazenta, among a couple others, with 230. And okay, yes, we have seen larger basic Pokemon, but we're literally talking Magikarp and Wailord, a free prize card featuring two Pokemon, and the Bird Trio, a free prize card featuring 3 Pokemon. It's not exactly terribly fair. This is literally as high of HP we see on Arceus and Dialga and Palkia, a free Pokemon free prize card. So when I say the largest HP ever, I mean if you're looking for a basic non-free prize Pokemon, this is the largest HP we've ever seen. 280 is gigantic, and I know a bunch of people did guess 280. Those of you that did, good work. Is there going to be a Wailord V Max? No. Maybe one day, but as it stands at the moment, the fact of the matter is we don't have a V Max, and these V decks being released on their own as separate products, don't expect one anytime soon. We got a retreat cost of 4, which means we've got use of buff padding here to put yourself up to 330 HP, which is frankly absolutely ludicrous. We have got a weakness to lightning here, which on the one hand we can sit here and go, oh, one hit KO'd by Pikachu and Zekrom, and that's true. On the other hand, with Electro Power going away, Thunder Mountain going away, and Eternatus V Max coming along, there's a very good chance that these decks will not be as good post-rotation. One of the things that makes me really happy is that Eternatus V Max, even with a full bench, hits 270 and doesn't get a one-hit KO on Wailord. One of the things that makes me really unhappy is remembering that they are definitely going to be playing multiple Galarian Zigzagoon, which will easily drop that extra 10 damage. Boo! And then you're a water Pokemon. Water Pokemon means Frostmoth to accelerate energy for that second attack, which we might not actually need. More on that in a moment. So I'm kind of alright with this. And of course you're hitting weakness on all of those Welder decks, which is... it's a fairly significant weakness to be hitting right now. Now, before we get on to the attacks proper, we do need to mention that this is not a Pokemon that necessarily needs to attack. This is a Pokemon that can be played as a stall deck, using stuff like Mallow and Lana, using stuff like Pokemon Center Lady, to just sit in the active and not get KO'd. If you choose to play Frostmoth, what you can actually do is accelerate energy to it, and then keep using Hyper Potion to heal 120 damage while discarding 2 energy. It is worth noting, unfortunately, that Great Potion only works on Pokemon GXs, so you won't be able to use that here, which is actually really upsetting, because that would be a great card to use here. Totally nailed it. Also worth pointing out that Mixed Herbs is being rotated out, which is a little bit sad. But we've always got plenty of healing options. We don't have Max Potion at the moment, though we do in Expanded. If we get a reprint of Max Potion, that's something to bear in mind. We also currently don't have Super Scoop Up, which is a bit ridiculous. But that's a card that I expect to be reprinted any day now. I think we will get it back. It's one of those cards that keeps coming back around. The point is, unless your opponent can one-hit KO you, and a lot of them are going to struggle a bit, you can play a little bit of a prize denial deck here, But then again, given that Pikachu and Zekrom will one-hit you, given that Eternatus V Max will one-hit you with Galarian Zigzagoon, given that Blacephalon can discard 6 energy to one-hit you, I'm not sure if that's going to work nowadays. Although, to be fair, discarding 6 energy from your hand 3 times is not exactly easy. And there are plenty of Pokemon out there, like Zacian, for instance, that just will not get a one-hit KO. But let's imagine we're not playing it as a blocker. What does it do? Remember, as always, there are timestamps in the description. We are much later getting to the attacks than normal here, because one of the selling points of Wailord has always been as a blocker, regardless of actually attacking. But I like the attacks. The first attack for 1 water energy lets you attach up to 3 water energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Oh my word, that's good. We can already see the second attack takes 4 energy. We'll get there in a second. But one of the things we do when we look at this is we go, well, how are we supposed to pay the energy cost? To be fair, Frostmoth. Frostmoth will actually legitimately pay the energy cost here, which is kind of ridiculous. And then you've got this other attack coming in as well. And what we actually see here is, and I'm not used to saying this, a Wailord where we can legitimately pay the attack cost, where we actually know what it does. How weird is that, ladies and gentlemen? How weird is it to have a Wailord and be able to sit here and go, oh, yeah, no, the attack cost really isn't that bad. I love this. You get the energy in a discard, and we all know that's not terribly difficult. And if you can do it turn 1 going second, then after your first turn, you can be sitting there with a 330 HP Pokemon with 4 energy attacks that only gives up 2 prizes. As a side note, yes, Eternatus will have a much more difficult time KOing you if you play buff padding, but do remember that Tool Scrapper is a thing, so it's still not a perfect plan against decks like that. And then we've got an attacking attack that actually does damage, which is quite nice here. 4 water energy sounds expensive, but remember we can pay it quite easily. Flip 3 coins. This attack does 120 damage for each heads that you flip. Nice! This is really nice. Now, yes, it's a flippy attack, but I'm really not terribly worried about the flippiness of the attack. Remember that we're still going to have Will post-rotation, and essentially Will guarantee your first heads. And then you're flipping 2 coins, all things being even, as they should be, don't cheat. We would expect you to flip 1 out of 2 heads, so if you play a Will, you can have a reasonable expectation of hitting 240 damage. And generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of 4 energy 240, though it is a gigantic amount of damage. But when you're paying the attack cost either using the first attack or using Frostmoth, I start to soften considerably. But we've also got Glimwood Tangle. Glimwood Tangle, remember, is that new stadium card, which is basically the old Victini, but as a stadium card. When you flip coins for attacks, you may reflip. And remember, it is all or nothing. You cannot flip 2 heads and just reflip the third. You reflip all or none. But now you've got a much higher chance of flipping 3 heads, and now we go from expecting kind of 1 or 2 to expecting 2, which means we're expecting to hit 240. There's going to be those awesome turns that we do hit 360, and that's going to be amazing. And there's going to be those horrible turns where we hit 120 or maybe even 0. Although with Glimwood Tangle, the only time you should really hit 0, and look, it will happen occasionally, but rarely. But the only time you should really expect it to happen is where you're trying to go from 1 heads to 2 or 2 heads to 3. It is extremely rare you'll flip treble tails twice. Can happen, but it's very, very unlikely. And damage-wise, a lot of the time we're going to be good. Now, 120 actually makes me genuinely a little bit sad, because against something like Reshiram and Charizard, with a Vitality Band, you're hitting 130, doubled with weakness is 260, and you're 10 damage short, which is actually really genuinely a little bit upsetting. And Reshiram and Charizard is falling out of favour, and other Pokemon like Victini and Ninetales are tending to see a little bit more play and a little bit more love in these fire decks. But it is very much worth bearing in mind that you are missing a KO on that, and that is a little bit sad. But 120 will get a lot of single prize Pokemon. Not all of them, but it will get a lot of single prize Pokemon. We then assume we hit 2 heads. We're doing 240 damage. And now all of a sudden you're getting any Pokemon V whatsoever. They will all go down here. You're getting things like Pikachu and Zekrom, which of course is going to be one of the main things you want to worry about. And if Pikachu and Zekrom is one hitting you for 2 prizes and you're one hitting them for 3 prizes, that weakness becomes an awful lot less scary. So I'm kind of down with this. And then, of course, if you hit 3 heads, you're doing 360. 360 will KO anything. The biggest Pokemon we have around at the moment are things like Snorlax V Max, rocking 340 HP. Bearing in mind, with a buff padding, you're hitting 330. So you will literally KO anything if you flip 3 heads. And I'm not saying Wailord V is perfect, because even with the gigantic HP, there are plenty of widely played Pokemon that will be able to get a one-hit KO. And even though the second attack is eminently payable, you still got to use the first attack first or have Frostmoth, which is still fine, but it's something you've got to bear in mind. And then the attack is flippy, and even though it does hit good numbers, because of its flippy nature, it won't always hit the good numbers. And I don't even care, because I honestly think this is going to be a really, really good Pokemon. And I think you can build this in a way to cover some of your worst matchups. And I think this has a genuine chance to be really good, and not just as a blocker. And that is not something I say very often about Wailord cards. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you say about Wailord cards. Specifically this. Oh, I haven't given it a Wassy score, have I? 4 Wassies. I think this is really good. I really like it. I'm a big fan. I can't tell you this is going to be amazing, but I can tell you that I am convinced enough that this is one of the decks I am really looking forward to building when we get these cards. But now I want to know what you think about Wailord, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.